this team is really trying to keep parents and families as informed as possible with the information that we have thus far regarding school opening. So before we begin, I'd just like to say a thank you to those teachers and admin that have been working with me and helping me with this new task of school reopening. And so today we'll be hearing from Ms. Clancy, Ms. Nelson, Ms. Nix Miller, Ms. Cairo, our parent coordinator, Ms. Gray, Ms. Pagam, and our assistant principal, Ms. Washington. So again, during the presentation, you'll be hearing from them about various items that we hope that we can answer questions that you have around school opening. The agenda will be, we'll be talking about New York State reopening guidelines. We'll be discussing health and safety, blended learning, and parent essential information. And so what I'd like to start talking a little bit about are the guidelines from the governor regarding school opening. I'm sure that you all have been very much in tune with what the New York City has been saying, as well as our state government around school opening and what the guidelines are in order to make that happen. Of course, we know that we hear briefings from the mayor and from the chancellor's office about school opening to help us prepare, but the information regarding solely whether or not when and under what parameters school will open come from our governor, Governor Cuomo. And so I know that in one of his briefings not too long ago, he talked about the fact that the first week in August would be a very crucial week, because during that week, he is supposed to announce very important information around school opening. What we do know in terms from the state guidelines, in order for a school to open in New York City, they would have to be, of course, in phase 4. And we know that there have been some modifications to what the original explanation was of phase 4, but there would also have to be a daily infection rate remaining below 5% or lower using a 14-day average since unpause was lifted. And so schools closed when there was a regional infection rate is greater than 9% using a 7-day average after August 1st, okay? So the governor will press you see the pause button or the emergency button there if the virus spikes between August 1st and then we will be able to hear more information about a school opening date. So again, we're really waiting for the governor to give us the okay in terms of what September will look like. And so a lot of this information, when you hear it, the word preliminary will be used, because this is preliminary because it's not set in stone as to yet, but we just want to keep you informed. So with that being said, we'll move on to the next slide having to do with health and safety. And
good afternoon, everyone.
Okay.
Keeping in accordance to the New York State Department of Health, as you know, the governor and New York State Department of Health, there is a travel advisory throughout New York State that is in regards to 31 states that if you have traveled through or visited, that it is recommended that there is a 14-day quarantine, self-quarantine. So due to health precautions around the spreading of the COVID-19 virus, that's something that is important for us to know as a school community, if any of our students and or other household members have traveled. So one of the questions that you're going to see on our emergency blue cards that will be sent out virtually for you to fill them out is that we will be asking whether a household member or any of our students have traveled within the last month prior to the start of school. We thought that was very key to start our conversation off with, to let you know some of the safety precautions that we will be taking as a school. And we move on to our next slide. So some of the guiding principles that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about opening the schools up is that when we look at the highest risk, when you're talking about school settings, that would be a full-size in-person classes, activity, and events. Students are not spaced apart, shared classroom materials and supplies are mixed between classes and activities. That is not our program. The more, a less greater risk would be small in-person classes, activities, events. Groups of students stay together and with the same teacher throughout the school day. They don't mix. Students are social distancing at 6 feet apart. They do not share objects. It's a hybrid virtual and in-person class structure with staggered to rotating schedules to accommodate smaller class sizes. That is actually the model that, as we go through, you keep in mind that Walt Disney as a school will be implementing. And of course, the lowest risk would be students and teachers engage in virtual only remote learning.
Hand washing. So according to the CDC recommendations, the best way to prevent the spread of germs is to wash your hands. So the children will be having hand washing incorporated into their daily schedule. Children will be washing their hands before and after meals, when using the toilet, of course, when blowing their noses, coughing, sneezing into their hands, and touching garbage. These are the main parts of our day that children will need to wash their hands. The spread of the germ is from touching your face, your nose, and so by keeping your hands clean, you can help prevent the spread of the disease. So we will be incorporating this into each classroom's daily schedule. Okay, cloth face coverings. It is recommended and required for all staff and students to wear a cloth face covering on their face the entire time they're in school. They can also wear face shields, but the mask must be worn at all times. The DOE will provide one disposable mask per student per week. That is to supplement the cloth mask that is going to be provided by the parents. Once again, the children must wear the mask at all times when in the school building.
So part of us as maintaining healthy environments, there will be regularly cleaning and disinfecting of surfaces that are frequently touched, such as playground equipment, door handles, will be school buses. They will be disinfected when possible and cleaned in between use. Shared objects. Children will be holding onto their own materials. We discourage sharing of items that are difficult to clean or disinfect. Every child's belonging will be separated from others and in individually labeled containers, such as cubbies, desk areas, as well as to ensure ventilation that was spoke about. Our school has a good ventilation system. That's one of the things that is also will be part of maintaining our healthy environments. Just to know, we avoid sharing electronic devices, books, and other learning aids as well. So they will be limited to single person use. We also are preparing in case anyone comes to school sick. There will be an isolation room that is set aside for any child that comes into the school that shows any symptoms. School officials will be notified immediately. Parents will be notified immediately. Staff and or children that are presenting COVID-19 symptoms, they will be isolated in what's called our isolation room, which will be separate from our regular nurse's office. And as we stated, as in any other case when children are sick, we will be reaching out immediately to parents and guardian.
So the school will also be implementing temperature checks into the daily arrival as a screening as the children come to school. Supervision will be taking place of the children as they wait and stand in social distancing. And then someone who is trained will perform the temperature screening.
Hi everyone, I'll be talking about blended learning. So as we think about reopening, we've thought about a blended learning model in a traditional station rotation classroom when we're in the brick and mortar. The students would physically move from one station to another. So you have a teacher-led station, an online station, and an offline station where students are participating in, let's say, paper-based or more project-based learning, but all working around the same skill and content area. Instead of designing a lesson where students move, they will remain in the same location throughout the class and will work through a series of learning activities. The teacher, by contrast, will move from each group to facilitate the teacher-led station. Setting up classrooms is something else that we've talked about in terms of station rotation in the era of social distancing. So students will be asked to wear their face covering while in school, and obviously they have to remain 6 feet apart within the classrooms. The students will not need to physically move around or closely engage in small group discussions or talk while completing collaborative tasks. And here are some samples of desk formations that would allow for social distancing without regulating students in rows. And taking the station rotation online, so we do understand that the model we have gone with, and there will be some students that will be learning completely from home remotely. So this station rotation model can be replicated online. Teachers can combine online and offline learning activities in a virtual station rotation lesson and assign each group a virtual conferencing time to meet with their teacher online for their teacher-led station, which is pretty much small group instruction.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ms. Washington, Assistant Principal, and I know we're all wondering about arrival and dismissals. So as this reopening team, we're having great discussion around a plan. We had a wonderful building council meeting with the other 2 schools in our school. But just so you know, we are still working on the plan and we are still waiting for direction from our chancellor and from our governor, of course. But there will be a tentative staggered arrival and dismissal plan. So we know that there are some students that might need the breakfast. We are looking at a tentative schedule where you have a cohort of 9 students coming in at staggered times throughout the day. Our school still will open at 8 a.m. And we are looking at where the students will arrive. You will hear that information as we continue to work on the plan. So we are in discussion when it comes to the arrival and dismissal of your children and making sure they will be safe. So we wanted to just have that information given to you. We will continue to update you on anything else. But right now we are looking at a tentative staggered arrival and dismissal plan. Thank you. Okay, so we're waiting for Ms. Miller and Ms. Clancy at this time.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. I apologize.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was speaking, okay, before. I'll be reviewing Parent Essentials, and as we know, the PS 160 Walt Disney Magnet Theme School is a part of the Department of Education, which means that we must follow the New York City Department of Education and the New York State of Education directives and guidelines. As we're progressing, we're still in the planning phase, so the information is subject to change. We are planning, but again, the final decision will be made by the governor, Mayor de Blasio, and the school's chancellor, Richard Carranza. Thank you. So also, in close,
So
right?
essentially, Governor Andrew Cuomo, he is devising the school reopening plan based on data. It's data driven. Schools and regions with different with phase 4, the remaining rate must be below 5% using a 14-day average. So again, this is data that's continuously changing. Schools will close if regional infection rates rise, and that is something that should be discussed by August 1st. But again, that is subject to change.
So as we are,
So this
continue, Ms. Miller.
So this particular slide highlights highlights the chancellor recommended model. And so there are 2 cohorts in school within each grade, and 1 cohort is completely remote, and that's per grade. So there's a total of 3 cohorts per grade. 2 cohorts are in school, 1 cohort is completely remote per grade. And so you see in the chart there, an example. This is just a sample of like what 5th grade could look like. So you see on Monday and Tuesday, you have cohort A meets Monday and Tuesday. Cohort B would meet Wednesday and Thursday. And on Friday, that would be an alternating day where sometimes cohort A meets and sometimes cohort B meets. The number 9 is a number that we are using right now to kind of estimate class size, but that is dependent on the square footage of each classroom in the building. So that number can shift a bit, but again, that's based on right now the square footage of the classrooms within the building.
So, as you see with the recommended program, parents have 2 options. Your options are either blended learning, which consists of in-person days at school and remote learning days from home for your child. And the second option would be 100% remote learning. If you choose the option of 100% remote learning, there is a survey that has been placed in our chat that must be completed by August 7th. After August 7th, if you have not filled out the survey, your child will be placed in blended learning. If you choose 100% remote learning and you decide that after August 7th, you want to go to blended learning, you have a period that you have to wait before you can make that change. So it's very important for you to go. If you're seriously thinking about having your child do 100% remote learning, you must fill out the survey by August 7th. If you choose to have your child in blended learning, you do not have, there's no action that needs to be taken at this time. And remember, blended learning are the several days in school with some days at home with remote learning. So we have placed the link inside the chat for you to be able to click right on. It takes a few moments to fill it out just to ensure. If at times during the year you have decided that blended learning is not working out for you, the option to switch to remote learning is always available. But be mindful, if you start with 100% remote learning, you have to stay for a period of time until the accessible date where you can switch. So please take a moment. There are family and student sessions that are taking place to hear more about it. Those links will be sent via Remind and also on our school website.
Ms. Baker, we can't hear you.
Somebody muted me. Okay, so for any parents that joined us late or that were unable, if you know of any parents that were unable to be on take part in the forum, we ask that you please tell them to go to our website, because this is being recorded, so the information will be there as well. Also, August 7th is a very important date, so please make sure that you do fill out that survey by August 7th, because like Ms. Gray said, it will determine whether or not, if you do want your child to be in remote learning 100% of the time, then it's very crucial that you fill out that survey to indicate so. And like she said, you just really want to take into consideration all factors, because once you opt into full-time remote learning, there are only designated times within the school year that you can, opt out if you so choose. At this point, we are opening up to questions. We will try our very best to be able to answer any of the questions that you have. We will be also providing you with other tools and ways to post any questions that may come up at a later date. One would be the chat, if you'd like to. There of course is a chat feature to Zoom, and so you can post in the chat feature any questions that you have right now. We also have another method that we will be using called a Padlet, and you can post questions to that at a later date if you so choose, and then we'll be able to look at that and answer your questions and come with hopefully those answers when we have our next session, which will be sometime after Governor Cuomo makes his announcement. At this point, we will be taking a nice chunk of questions, maybe about 10, and then whatever is posted in the chat, like I said, we will be answering and posting on our school website, and then also any questions that were posted in the Padlet, we will also be responding to as well. So I don't know if there are any questions there yet. If you guys could check the chat and.
Yes, there are questions. One moment. It says, is remote learning going to be the same way as it was at the end of school, or will it be different?
So since just to go back, of course, when we first started remote learning, although we as a school, we started learning a little bit more about remote learning before we actually had to go into it because of COVID-19. Of course, we kind of thrust into it because that's what we needed to do at the time. And then once we realized that we were going to be in remote learning for the remainder of the school year, we looked at it, we formed a team of teachers and staff members called the Remote Learning Remix Team, because we knew we needed to remix what we were doing, because the way that we were doing remote learning in the beginning was we wanted to make sure that there was more engagement for our children. So out of that team came the screencasting and methods that we were using then. Now we know even more about remote learning because the teachers have participated in more professional learning. Some of them have taken their time during the summer to learn more. So as we talked about blended learning and our schedule to that degree, but of course we've learned more about remote learning. So we're looking to probably add and enhance upon what we did when we last left our children in, because that's what we do as educators, right? As we learn more, we enhance and we try to give as much engagement as we can for children.
A parent asks, will siblings be given the same cohort, even if in different grades?
So we would like to try and make that accommodation as much as possible. So this came up at our last forum, I believe. And so what we have talked about, Ms. Gray, correct me if I'm wrong, but we said we would be sending out a survey to families asking, if that was something that was needed for a family. We just needed you to indicate that, and we would try our very best to make sure that where those types of accommodations are needed, that we would make those.
Yes, we're also sending out, when we send out our blue cards for next year, which will be sent out remotely, it will be a form to fill out. We're trying to have it all on one form so that we can accommodate all of the siblings within the school, so that we have it all on one sheet so that we know exactly who are our sibling sets within the school. There was also a question that said, I just wanted to clarify, 1 second. There was a question that asked, would there be a problem if I filled out the survey now, but then opted for blended learning? Whatever you put on that survey, if you fill out the survey and you check that you want 100% remote learning and you don't switch it to blended learning before August 7th, your child will be 100% remote learning. So I would not fill out the survey until you really weighed your options, because then if you get locked into the one, remember there's a time frame for parents. If you choose 100% remote learning, you have to stay in that for a certain amount of time before you have access to change.
All right, so I hope, so just to reiterate what Ms. Gray just said, so if you want to jump into or opt your child into, let's say you select, you want to have hybrid instruction or blended learning happening for your child, then what needs to happen is if you decide that you want to make a change, just please make sure that you do that change, any type of change, by August 7th. Okay, August 7th, like mark the calendars, that's a key date, August 7th. The survey or changes, once you mull it over, and you might say, on August 6th, then just make sure that by August 7th, you make that change.
So there's another question that what will be the support for new kindergartners with IEPs?
Ms. Gray, I'm going to ask Ms. Nelson to jump in.
Okay. Will there be support for kindergartners with IEPs?
Yes, so all of our IEP students, all of our students that, that receive related services, those supports still have to happen remotely and in person. So I know that some of you, if you have an incoming kindergarten student, you may not have experienced it, but last year when we had remote learning, the related service providers were required in many cases to either do teletherapy or to make sure that they were interacting with students and whatever platform they needed to interact with them to make sure that they received their services. So IEP students definitely will have supports no matter what grade it is, as well as related services still take place in person and remotely.
Parent wants to know, will temperature checks be done periodically throughout the day?
In terms of the New York State guidelines, there have been no, the New York State Ed guidelines, there hasn't been mention as of yet regarding temperature checks throughout the day. There is a requirement for temperature checks in the morning when children come in, when they arrive at school.
Another question is, will the assignments be 100 remote learning be the same as the blended? So will the children get the same information, I guess is what they're asking.
So yes, so students should be getting, the teaching that's happening is, so for instance, our school, we're a thematic or unit-based school. So the units will be, the instruction will be the same based on the unit that the grade is in. The only thing that changes is the methodology formats that have to take place in terms of whether the child is participating remotely or if the child is participating in brick and mortar. But the instruction or the unit that the child is working on, they remain the same.
Another question is there any guidance on this? Will the children be required to take a COVID test before returning to school?
So far, I have heard nothing about students having to take a COVID test prior to return to school, no. But certainly information will be going home to parents, just, based on the CDC guidelines of what you should be aware of in terms of, when you're looking at your child or just, watching out for symptoms of COVID. But in terms of there being an actual test prior to, a mandate for an actual test prior to school, I have not heard about that yet.
Okay, another parent asked, will the children eat in the classroom? And if so, will parents have to provide lunch?
So certainly it's fine if a parent would like to provide lunch. Lunch will be in the classrooms as well as breakfast because we're trying to minimize the amount of movement that students are doing throughout the building. So as always, parents are welcome to send their child with a lunch, but school will be providing lunch and breakfast also.
Okay. Oh, what about uniforms?
So at this point, families, I know that it's been quite a hectic time with just dealing with COVID-19, dealing with all these changes that are taking place. Certainly, if your child has been with us at 160 and they have a uniform already that they're still able to fit, or if you've already purchased uniform items, that's fine. But this, I think right now, while we're in this place that we're in right now, our biggest concern is that our children are healthy and that they're safe and that they're getting educated. And so we're not overly concerned with the uniform, but certainly there will be information that will be provided if you're interested in getting a uniform, but please know that we will not be contacting you if your child shows up without a uniform, not right now, not this year.
Right. I don't know if Ms. Gray answered this already, but if I choose blended learning and then want to switch to remote learning, what does the parent need to do?
And just a reminder again, that's the August 7th survey. You just want to make sure that you indicate your choice by August 7th. Now, if you decide after August 7th, Ms. Gray will be putting out there to parents. We don't know the windows yet, but I think I heard something around, it's sort of like around the times that the different, around report card time, I kind of heard, right? So if you are interested after the 7th you decide or you try this and you don't particularly care for the blended learning, then just know there is a little wait, quite a wait, before you can make that change. And I imagine it would be either an email sent to my attention or a survey. They haven't told us yet what that method would be.
Okay, what happens if a student tests positive in a child's class?
So we would, of course, if a child tests positive, then we would have to, notify the class that there was we wouldn't, of course, say the child's name or give any information, but we would notify that there was a case in the classroom. And then, of course, if it becomes a situation of spread, then there are protocols that are in place that include the school having to be shut down for a period of time and cleaning to take place.
Are there plans for parent training meetings to help their children stay on track?
Absolutely. We will be having professional learning conducted by Ms. Gray, conducted by school teachers and school staff, just to help parents, because we know that this is a very, difficult in terms of teaching your children. Many of you have not opted to do homeschooling, and so this is a new realm that you're entering into. And so definitely there will be training on the different methodologies of different things that teachers know of that can help assist with at-home learning.
What about after school?
So again, I have not heard from MMCC anything regarding any additional after-school information. Ms. Gray and I heard something about, I think, a summer camp or something happening during the summer, but outside of that, we haven't heard anything about the fall. But one thing I do want to say, I know that the mayor did make an announcement about there being childcare. I think he mentioned something like 100,000 spots or something like that for childcare across the city. So I'm sure Ms. Gray has the information about that. And so I'm gonna ask her to please, if it's not already on the school website, to please put that information out, because if you do think that that's something that you would need, whether or not we know what's gonna happen at once we hear from Governor Cuomo or not, or whatever the case, I would just fill it out to be on the safe side. But Ms. Gray, can you speak more about that?
If you guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me? A little bit. As most things that go out, it's of course essential workers get first priority as far as after school care. But there is more information that's coming, and that will be sent out. Everything will be on the website and sent via Remind.
I'm assuming that what you just said, Ms. Baker, answers this question, but I'll ask it anyway. What about parents who work full-time? Where do their children go on their days off?
Right, and so that's the reason why it's very important for you to fill out that information about the additional childcare, because right now, that's the only information that we know in terms of anything that the city or the DOE has mentioned around helping to provide childcare. Right now, we don't know about MMCC. I know that they were experiencing financial difficulty, like so many other, agencies or programs right now. But the minute we hear more information about them, we will give that information as well.
They also asked, what if a teacher tests positive? I'm assuming it's the same protocol as if a child tests positive. Where are they asking for the supply lists for the children?
So supply lists will be on our website and will also be pushed out through notifications like Remind as well as we get closer to the time.
With 100% remote learning, will parents have the opportunity to talk to their child's teacher weekly?
So in our previous, when we were in brick and mortar, right, we had 2 Tuesdays that were devoted to parent parent time, teacher time, right? For any questions that you had around your asking of your child's teacher. So we will be continuing with that same format going forward.
Okay. This is not really related, but I'll ask it anyway. They want to know when the money will be sent back, I guess, for the graduates that were discussed in the last meeting.
Yes, so right now, you know, at the last meeting and even right now, we haven't really entered the building. I think the PTA, are we talking about the PTA fund?
I think probably the graduate money, yeah.
Because we had minimal money, I think that was collected from the 5th grade teachers, but I think the PTA collected money.
So do you want me to jump in, Ms. Baker?
Oh, hey, Ms. Sayers. Okay, yes, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Sayers.
Oh, sorry. So as far as that, once we are allowed to go back in the building, myself, along with the vice president, we'll go in and we'll try to get the contact information for the 5th graders. And that way we have to issue back checks. We cannot return any cash. Everything will have to be in the form of checks, but that can't happen until everything is solidified with everyone returning to the building and whatever the procedure will be for visitors, because we're not paid positions in the building, so we're considered visitors. So once all of that is established, then we can work with the PT on the district level to figure out how everything would be returned to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sayers. And I
They
think,
want-
Ms. Nelson, we have
Yes.
for a couple of more questions, and then we can give people time to kind of
Okay.
reach out through the Padlet.
Okay. This question's coming through the Padlet. It says, how do I register a new child?
Okay, so Miss Gray, I'm not gonna ask her to answer, but Miss Gray is doing registration. That's been something else that she has been fully taught prior to the summer. So Ms. Gray would be the person to get all registration information. And so her contact information can be found on our school website.
And Ms. Gray, if you want to put it in the chat also.
A parent is asking, will there be interactive classes for kindergarten?
So in terms of interactive, of course, we still have to practice all, I'm not sure if you're talking interactive, meaning remotely interactive, meaning like the engagement piece, or if you mean in person, when they're in person, are they interacting? We just have to keep in mind the social distancing portion of it. So we are planning for, of course, like pre-K, they have to go out every day for outside play. That's part of their program. We also are looking to make sure that our children that are in person, when they're in person learning, that they do go outside for some portion of the day. We're just trying to see how that can be done. And so we're talking about like possibly taking them out a class at a time for some time, just so, you know, when the weather is great, or if they can use like a large space just to stretch or whatever the case. We're trying to see if that can be done. In terms of interactive, the teachers will be making it as interactive as possible through the use of remote and use of technology. But we really want to stay away from children having any type of contact because we do have to practice social distancing.
Okay. There was one that went away. I have to find it now. So I guess you answered this. They want to know about gym. The classes will be the children will be in the classroom all day. So how will gym go? Oh, with new children coming in, will they receive a laptop?
So yes, the answer is, of course, if a family is in need and they need technology in order to, they need the technology in order to function remotely, right? So yes. So I know that in our parent focus group that we had the other day, I believe this came up and we said if there were any parents that feel like they may be in need of a laptop, they can reach out to Ms. Gray and we will try and kind of see if we can get a laptop through the DOE while they're still centrally funding laptops. But if that's not the case and the student is in need of a laptop, then we will take care of that at the school level.
Okay. Will the parents be contacted regarding preparation for remote learning? I'm assuming yes.
Yes, most definitely. Once we know for certain, you know, again, this is our second meeting, and then in between our second meeting, our you know, large forum meeting like this, we had a parent focus group meeting. We are continuing to meet as a team. Our next piece is really looking at the items that we mentioned here that are next steps, but then also our instructional piece. So then we will be talking about information that we need to send home to families so that to help you all prepare your children and yourselves for the you know, what's coming with instruction for next year.
I know you answered the testing about children, but a parent is asking, will teachers be required to be tested before returning to work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So when you say testing now,
For COVID.
oh, COVID testing.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
So as I know now, there is no COVID testing requirement for teachers or school employees prior to coming back to school. I'm sorry, I was thinking about temperature checks because staff members also will need to have their temperatures checked prior to coming into the building. But COVID testing, I have not learned of anything where it's anything that's stating so far that everyone has to prove that they've been tested prior to entry in the fall.
Hi, Ms. Baker. As we're starting to come to an end, I'm going to ask Ms. Pagan if she would go back to our social media slide, because I would like for you to just show the different ways of communication that we have for our parents.
So thank you, Ms. Washington. So parent communication and updates. Of course, we have our school website, which is www.thewaltdisneyschool.org. You can always follow us on Facebook, the Walt Disney School parent page, and then we are also on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We have the Remind text messaging system, so please make sure that you you know, look at that as well. And then sometimes you will definitely hear Ms. Gray's voice on Blackboard Connect, which is our phone messaging system, where a lot of our information comes out, is sent out to parents and families as well. We also have our summer contact number, which is Ms. Gray's number. And so that's right there. It's 845-875-9234. Again, for those of you that are listening, I'll repeat it again. The summer contact school number is 845-875-9234. And then our parent coordinator, Ms. Gray, can be reached at kgray6@schools.nyc.gov. And so I think at this point, this concludes our parent forum. I'd just like to say thank you to all of the families that have tuned in. Please watch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, listen out for the phone blast, Remind, follow our school website, because we will be having another parent forum very soon in August to talk about any new information. And I just hope that all of your families are safe, you stay well, and you try to enjoy this summer somewhat. Please know that we are working diligently to do the best that we can do to make sure that your children will be safe and we follow healthy practices within our school, and we give them the best education that we possibly can. So we thank you all very much for everything that you do, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Guerre? Ms. Guerre? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. I just have a quick question. If I choose the remote learning, is it for the whole school year or just till this year is over?
If you choose the remote learning, if it's working for you, it could be for the whole school year. If you find that it's not working for you, there are going to be windows, certain dates that you'll be able to opt out of it.
Okay, and
You
that
just
date
don't-
will be when?
So if you want 100% remote learning, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. If you want 100% remote learning, then you have to click on that link
Okay,
for the parent survey
okay,
by August 7th.
okay.
If you don't change your mind and you don't change it before August 7th, your child's going to be in 100% remote learning. Okay? But so let's say you did it, you want it, and you're in 100% remote learning, but you find by November, this isn't working for me. Then the next window, which I will let parents know, when there's an option to change to blended learning, you would fill out that survey to change.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
But if you like remote learning and it's working for you, there's nothing you have to do once you fill it out on August 7th, by August 7th.
Okay.
Okay? But if you don't fill it out by August 7th, he'll be in blended learning.
Okay.
Okay?
Don't change it by August 7th. It will be a blend.
And the blended will be how many days in school and how many days at home?
I believe it's 2 days in school.
2 days in school.
Yes, I have to look. I don't have it committed to memory, but I believe it's 2 days in school. 3
2 days
days
with a rotating Friday.
with a rotating Friday. Thank you, Ms. Pagan.
So it is 2 to 3 days a week, depending on the Friday. The Friday, each cohort will rotate. So it'll be 2 to 3 days, depending on the week.
Okay.
I'm gonna set up how they set up.
And remember, if you do blended learning,
Okay.
if you choose blended learning and you don't do 100% remote, but you find it's not working for you, you can change to remote learning. That option is there for you.
Okay. Okay.
It's only if you choose 100% remote learning that you can't just automatically say, oh, now I want him to go into school.
Okay. I see. I see. Okay. I see.
Got it?
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. So.
No problem.
And also, I have a child that's coming in this September.
Okay.
Is there anything else that I need to do for him?
Pre-K or kindergarten?
Pre-K.
Did you, Ms. Panaccia has sent out paperwork via email. Did you fill out all of that paperwork?
Via email? No, I didn't get anything through email.
What's the child's name?
Godwin.
Godwin and Duca?
Yes.
I'm gonna check,
Okay.
okay? And then I'll give you a call.
Okay.
I'm gonna make sure he's in the class,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
You guys be safe. Have a good one.
Hi, hi. Sorry, quick question.
Yes.
I didn't receive paperwork either. I have a child incoming for pre-K.
Did you hear from our pupil accountant secretary earlier in the year, around June.
Yeah, for an invite for having what you call it? Uh, a Zoom thing.
Okay, can
Yeah.
I have the child's name?
Last name Williams.
Spell the last name for me.
Williams.
Williams.
Sage.
Sage Williams.
Yeah.
Can I have your contact number if you don't mind? Or you can email me.
Okay.
If you email me, I will respond. My email is kgray6@schools.nyc.gov.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so email me. I have his name. I'm going to check on it, okay?
For those that are asking, the link to the survey has just been posted in the chat. So if you want to take it quickly, you can.
Okay, we got 2 more minutes. Is there anyone on that has a question? Okay, if you check out our email, if you go to our website, I'm going to put it in the chat again. If you go to our website, this will be on the website by, what's today, Monday? By Wednesday. This whole presentation video will be on the website. The survey link will be on the website. On the announcements, contact information is on the website. And we are going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for attending. Meeting.